All right. It looks like we are live and ready to go. Hello, Pat Flynn here from Team SPI. We just had an amazing morning session with CEO Matt Gartland where we talked about a lot of the differences between audience building and community building. But now we're going to put rubber to the road, and we have our amazing friends here, Andy and Alexis from Circle. How are you both doing today? Thanks for being here.
Doing amazing, Pat. The first session was just so fun. So I'm pumped to be here.
Yeah, I'm feeling all the good energy. The engagement in the chat is amazing, and we're excited to jump in and talk more about community building.
Well, why don't we just dive right in, and everybody who's watching right now, say hello in the chat. Tell us where you're from. That way we can get to know each other, because this is, of course, community within a conversation about community. So, hey, let's do that. But I'm going to let you two take it. I'll be here in the background. I might pop in and interrupt if there's something I feel like I could add, but this is your show. We're talking about a whole bunch of great things today. So let me put both of you on the screen right now and take it away.
That sounds good. Well, thank you, Pat. All right. So let's see what we got going on in the chat here. Looking and seeing a couple of faces, or I guess faces in the avatars and names that we recognize over here. Hey there, Sandy, Kathy, John, Diane, Robin, Douglas. Awesome. Cool. Alexis, what do you say we just hop into it?
I'm ready. I don't know. Is the chat ready?
Okay.
I'm not sure.
I think the chat's ready. Got some excitement really here. Ready. So
yes.
Cool. Okay. So let's do it here. Now, there are a lot of names we could have called this presentation. Ultimately, we landed on something very literal. We're calling it How to Create a Home for Your Community. We're going to take a look behind the scenes at the most popular community setups on Circle, and hopefully you'll walk away with a little bit of inspiration, for your own community here, right? And so a lot of people, when they come to a presentation like this, they're like, well, you know what? I got an hour of time. And so my time is valuable. Is this going to be right for me? And so I just kind of want to walk through who this is for. And it's really going to be right for you if you're thinking about creating some type of community or membership experience, or, maybe you have an online course and you're thinking about how can I add this engaging kind of community element to it? Or maybe you have some audience or following, a blog or a podcast. And you're like, what would it be like if I connected those people together? How could it help my business? By the way, maybe you have a brand. Maybe you have a product. Maybe you have a software company. Maybe you have a direct-to-consumer brand and you want to find a way to connect all those people with each other. Well, this workshop's going to be perfect for you if you fall into one of those categories. And what I would love to know, and Alexis, let's take a look in the chat and see what we have in there. But did you see the first event today? Were you at event number 1? And if you were, can you share your biggest takeaway from Pat and Matt earlier today? Alexis, what was your biggest takeaway?
My biggest takeaway was the content bloating. That platter that I think it was Pat shared about, just all of the overwhelm of sharing content and not always having a strategy behind why we're sharing content. What is it really leading to? And so that audience building versus community building really resonated with me. What about you?
I don't know about Andy, but I am also...
Here, I'm going to look at...
Oh, you're a little frozen, Andy. Okay, I think you're back. I was about to make a joke about eating because you just talked about eating, and I'm literally eating a wrap right now. So please excuse me, everybody. I'm just in the background. I got my sriracha. Don't worry about me. Anyway.
We're keeping it real here.
Oh, okay. Sorry. So you lost me. Okay, cool.
No, you're good to go. You're ready.
Okay, cool. All right. So, had a lot of takeaways today. I thought, something that you shared earlier, Pat, it really, it's like the biggest thing I remember is you showed this picture and you were like, community is really important, but what would it be like if you were the person to kind of put up the tent and bring folks in and put out the chairs and the table, hand out the food, right? And I thought it was such a great analogy. And this is a really nice transition into what today's presentation is going to be about, because what we're going to do today is we're going to show you how to set up that tent, right? How to create the place where, your people can come together And this workshop, it's a natural next step on top of the first one that you saw earlier. And so, here's our big promise today, right? There's a whole lot of things we're going to try and cover. But in the next 60 minutes, we got a lot to accomplish. And there's one thing that we're going to focus on, which is we're going to build a community home from scratch. We're going to show you how to do it. We're going to show you a bunch of examples of what these look like out in the wild on the way. But for now, here's how we're going to get there, right? So we're going to create this home. Here's how we're going to do it. So the first thing is we're just going to talk about two myths that always come up when folks are thinking about starting their communities. We're going to talk about a bunch of different examples of real communities that are out there and show you what they actually look like. We're going to talk about the different ways that you can leverage communities from a revenue perspective for your business. Some of them are very obvious, but then there's others that are less obvious, and want to make sure we highlight those for you in case they're applicable. Another thing we're going to do is we're going to walk you through 12 very specific ideas for how you can create a really valuable community. We call these signature gatherings, and Alexis is going to go deep into that. And then finally, we're just going to build a community from scratch, right? And so we're going to do it from scratch. I'm going to pull up an actual Circle instance. We'll start to create some spaces and all of that. We're literally going to do it in 10 or 15 minutes. So we'll do all of that. We'll get to Q&A. We got some fun, surprises throughout. We'll talk about the community experience bundle too that we mentioned earlier, but we'll get there at the end. 30 seconds about me. I am one of the co-founders at Circle. We have 5,000 communities that run on Circle. And so, what we'll do is we'll kind of share some of the data that we're seeing here at Circle. And then Alexis, do you want to spend just, a few seconds introducing yourself?
Absolutely. Yes. I am the partnerships manager here at Circle, and my whole career up to this point has been spent working with creators. I'm really passionate about helping creators earn a living, and community is a huge part of that. So I'm really excited. I used to work at ConvertKit for over 4 years on the email marketing side, and now being on the community side, it's really cool seeing how those two things come together. So I'm ready to jump in.
Yes. And Alexis works with a lot of our biggest, creators and brands here. So I just always love kind of hearing, her perspective, given she's, talking to these people running the bigger communities all the time. So big assumption we're going to make today, which is that as we talk about community, we're talking about building kind of a home for your community online. We're going to be talking about this software. We're going to be talking about the interactions for people, but we're going to assume you're building a community to help your business. And that can mean a lot of things. It can mean that your community is the whole product, right? So maybe it's a membership community or something like that. Or it can be a community that really helps accelerate your business, but it's not the business. It's not the product. It's just kind of an unfair advantage you have. And we'll break down what that means. Now, let us know in the chat what kind of business do you have, if you have one, just so that Alexis and I, we have that context as we go here. So just write into the chat and let us know.
And with live streams versus YouTube, there's a little bit of a lag. So we'll see them come in. I'm seeing leadership development. Some were AP automation software, a boudoir photographer. I love the diversity of different businesses. Creating chatbots.
So many good ones in here.
Yeah, financial therapy practice. That's incredible.
Robin says, community is my business, digital fundraising, coaching, books, podcasts. Awesome. A lot of coaches here as well.
Amazing.
Yep. Awesome. So what I kind of want to drive home here is that the community, it can be the whole business, or the community can help your business. But either way, it's really important to understand which category your community falls into, and the role it's going to play in the broader business. And so let's look at some real examples just to kind of make this more real, right? So one of the communities, I always bring it up when people ask me, is the Fresh Exchange community from Megan and Mike Gilder. So I love this because it's a private paid community where the community itself really is the product in this case, right? So people pay every quarter for access every month. And so they come in, they cook with the seasons and all of that. And so, it's this, it's a community where it's very direct. Like, you pay for access, you get access to it. The community is the product. And you can kind of see like what these communities look like, right? So you can kind of see like there's like spaces on the left hand side, and there's discussions and members, and you can go to the Fresh Exchange, website, and you can see their sales page and how they've set it up and what they offer in there. And there's a lot that they offer. But if you were to look at the end of the day, the community is really the core product here. It's the product. Now, if you were to take another example that's a little bit different, one of my absolute favorite communities is Building a Second Brain with Tiago Forte. So Tiago has one of the most successful online courses I've ever seen. And it's, a $3,000 course. Actually, I think it might even be more than that in some instances. But the course and the content is the main kind of like attraction, and the community is what differentiates them, right? And so Tiago, he's able to command these really high prices. He's able to get his students to have these really big outcomes. And the community helps with the outcomes, but it's just one piece of it. It's not like the star of the show. And so, that might be the case for you, where you have a business and maybe it is a coaching business. But like you're kind of like the main attraction. And then there's extra things you do on top of that within the community. And you just kind of have to understand the role the community plays in your business here, right? Another example. So this is an example where the community is like the star of the show. It's the main product. So this is Britt Moore, and it's one of my favorite communities. It's a community for women who are all entrepreneurs, and it's a boot camp. There's actually a start and an end. And so we'll take a look at it later. But basically, they get all of these entrepreneurs in the same kind of cohort going through for a few months. And at the end of it, it's over. It's done. But like, the whole thing lives inside this circle experience, right? And so that's an example where the product is the community, and you can kind of see what it looks like here, right? You have these spaces again on the left-hand side, and they have, content and stuff that I consume, but also discussions. A very different example, again, where the community is not the main product, but it's a big differentiator. And so Modern Fertility. So Modern Fertility is a women's health company, and really it's like a direct-to-consumer website where they sell products. But Modern Fertility, one of the ways they've stood out is they have this community of women. It's 30,000 people, and so they have all these folks here who are going down the same journey together, and you can ask each other questions and all of that. But it's taken a product, and it's made it the kind of thing where, like, of all the different products out there, like, I could choose any of them, but I'm going to choose the one that has this community, right? And so, like, that's a very different role that community plays for them. And so, you should be thinking, like, what is your version of this like? And then finally, just one more I want to talk about is Josh Hall. Josh Hall is one of my favorite people. I know Pat knows Josh, and Josh is a coach. I saw there were a ton of coaches in here, and Josh, he did one-to-one coaching, right? Like, many of us have like a coaching practice. We do one-to-one coaching. Well, Josh, he just unlocked a ton of value for all of his clients, because what he did is he said, hey, I'm going to scale myself, but I'm also going to create a community experience where I bring in all my clients together. And now, instead of them just getting value from me, they get value from each other, right? And that's like this like order of magnitude difference in terms of like level of value that he offers now, right? That didn't exist before when it was just one-to-one. And so, the community is the product. And again, you can go to like his website and you can see how he set up his sales page and all of that. But let us know in the chat here. So if you already have a community or an idea for a community, is your community the product, or is your community helping your business in some other way? Is it playing some other role? Let us know in the chat. And you don't have to get it right just yet, but like, what are you thinking? Like, what are your instincts telling us, right? Like, just let us know in the chat here. And Alexis, as soon as you see answers coming in, let me know.
I absolutely will. Jess said it helps our business. Robin said it is the product. Thea said that community is helping the product, almost like a complementary to the main product. Helps our business. I don't have a community online yet. Great. You're starting from, that's a great place to start, honestly. So I'm glad that you're here today. Definitely the product. Some are still trying to decide. Yeah, I'm seeing a pretty good mix of the product as well as it complements the business. Community is the product.
Awesome.
Okay, cool.
Cool.
And
So
yes,
you're
I
going to
think
figure this stuff out.
oh,
Go ahead, Alexis.
I was just going to say that Christian, and I hope that I'm pronouncing your name correctly, said, can it be both? And I think it can be both. I think it can be the product and it can also fit into your body of work as well as a complementary to the overarching elements of your business too.
Yeah, absolutely. So it could be both, and you'll figure it out. Like this kind of evolves over time. But what I want to know, there's really like two myths, and this is something that we hear all the time when people are kind of like starting to think about creating their community. And so, the first one, and tell me if anybody has kind of like felt like this before. Let us know in the chat. But the first one is like, I want to create a community. Like I want to do this, but I need to have a large following. I feel like I have to create a community that is going to have a whole bunch of people in it in order for it to be worth my time, for it to be valuable, for it to be an attractive community, right? Like that's the first myth that we hear. And Alexis, like I get that. I would feel like that too if I was starting a community in a pre-circle world. And the reality is that like this can actually be a really great time when it's kind of like a new, like you're starting fresh. Starting small is an advantage. And by the way, it's even kind of like an exclusive thing that you can offer. Like you can give people more attention. You can really have a tight feedback loop with them as you pull them in to start like helping you build that community. And it's a magical time because it should be the smallest your community probably ever is, right? Like you'll grow it over time, but in the beginning, it's just so much easier to nail down who you serve and who it's for when it's really small. It's much more difficult to do that if you have this like massive audience, and then you need to figure out there's all these different folks in the audience and I could serve. It's easier if you decide who you want to serve and then you go out and figure out how to serve them. And so I would just like keep in mind that, right now, at least on Circle, the vast majority of the most successful, most beloved communities on Circle, they're high touch, they're high impact. Oftentimes there's even some like air of exclusivity in them, and they're less than 100 members. They're less than 100 members. And like, gosh, actually thinking Josh, who we just talked about, Josh might have more than 100 members now. He probably does. But like they're high touch, really valuable members, and like folks in it, they love that community. It's just easier to deliver when it's 30 people instead of 1,000 people, and you can build a really nice business on that. Myth number 2. So a lot of folks, when they're thinking about building their community, they're like, oh, I have to do like 12 different things. Like, how am I going to make sure folks get a ton of value? And I think it's very tempting to do that. If you go to the SPI Pro page, you can see just how thoughtful Pat and Matt, Jillian, the team have been about everything they offer. And that's where they're at now. But actually, a lot of the best communities, they start with like a very clear kind of transformation that they're going to provide for that initial group of folks, right? And so actually, what I would typically recommend, and what we see actually works when we look at these communities out in the wild, is find 1 or 2 things that you can really deliver on. Like make 1 or 2 big promises for your members and just go deep on those 1 or 2 things and become known for that. And once you can nail that with them, then you can start to layer on other like ways to offer value. But it's much easier, like your messaging, when you just choose, 1 or 2. And the thing, people always are like, well, how do I whittle down? Because there's like all of these things that I could do. What's going to be the ideas that are most like potent, right? That can deliver the most transformation. And so, Alexis,
Let's
I
do
was
it.
thinking you could come in here and kind of like walk us through some of these
Yeah.
practical ideas, and we can just give them to folks.
Yeah, that sounds great. And I would love to hear in the chat which of these really resonate with you most. So yeah, let's do this. 12 practical ideas to make your community more valuable.
All right.
All right. Two things that we need to keep in mind as we're kind of walking through this journey together. You'll notice that most of these ideas are centered around belonging. That's a huge core value of community, is creating belonging. And then the point of this is not to overwhelm you and give you so many options, but for one of these or maybe two of these to spark something that you could create for yourself. And we call these signature gatherings inside of your community. So when you keep these in mind, figure out which one applies to you the most and then drop them in the chat, because I would love to hear which of these is really landing with you. So number one is start right out of the gate, do monthly introduction calls. This could be a post, but it could also be a monthly call that you host with all new members where they all get to introduce each other. Maybe they get 60 to 90 seconds to have the floor, introduce themselves, but it's a way to really create that community up front, beyond just a screen, and actually host a call inside of your community. Idea number two is group coaching calls. I saw a lot of coaches in the chat. I love that. I love coaching. It's an amazing part of business. So you can also host your group coaching calls inside of Circle as well, or inside your community. That's something that could be a part of the product. Idea number three are weekly or monthly hot seats. This is where you could invite one person to take the stage and work through a specific problem that you're trying to solve or they're trying to solve, and then rotate who's in the hot seat every week or every month. Idea number three would be continued education as a community. I love this. So not just what the community is about, if you have a specific niche that you're teaching about, but how can you continue the education together? Maybe you're hosting a book club, maybe you're watching the same movie or listening to the same podcast, and then have a shared space where you can unpack that specific continuing education that's complementary to your specific business idea, which is always another way to use that content outside of always having to feel like you have to create the content yourself. Idea number five is expert guest interviews. This is a big one. How can you lend your platform to someone else? How can someone come in and teach on a topic and add additional expertise to your community? And that could be a video, or it could also be text-based. And then get your community to maybe even vote or suggest specific guests that they would love to see come into the community. Idea number six is Andy with the slides. Host weekly or monthly office hours. These are my favorite that I see community groups do. These are really casual opportunities for your community to come in and just do a live Q&A with them, answer their questions. This could be something that you do on a weekly basis or something that you might do on a monthly basis. But this just gives your community a little bit more access to you in a live setting where they're just adding that additional value on top of maybe the content that your community provides. Idea number
Alexis.
7. Yeah.
Well, Alexis.
Yeah.
The chat's loving it. So I have to call out here. I have to just call out here. So Donald says hot seats are gold. We use this in our mastermind. He says he likes them all. Number 5 was on my list too from MK. Intro call is a great idea. So yeah, keep it coming.
Awesome. Okay, idea number 7. This is another one I really love, accountability groups. So depending on what your community is teaching on or your specific expertise, how could you take the pressure off of you, especially depending on the size? And how could you have smaller accountability groups where people are holding each other accountable, whether that be through chat or whether that be maybe they're getting on Zoom calls or inside of Circle, but kind of extending that additional accountability to help people see that transformation, right? People want change, and having that baked into your community could be really powerful. Idea number 8 are panel discussions with your community members. So this is a cool idea to bring your community onto your platform and have a larger discussion, not just you with one person, but have more of a group discussion the rest of the community can really join in on and talk about a specific topic, whether it be that month's curriculum or some sort of educational point. Idea number 9. This is kind of a no-brainer, but live workshops and trainings. This is a big one that, especially if your community is the product, how could you be using live workshops or trainings and that be a core part of your signature gathering every month, whether that be recorded or live? And then idea number 10 is challenges. So how could you run a monthly challenge at the end of each month, or maybe it's even each quarter, where you could host a live video announcing the challenge winner, bring that person on stage and have them walk through their specific experience? This is a really unique way to also gain engagement in between these different signature gatherings so that your community as a whole is working towards a specific goal. How are we doing? I'm seeing that there are lots of different ideas in the chat. If you are starting to have hopefully a lot of value here. I hear Jess said, I want to do all the things. I feel that.
Mm-hmm.
It's all about figuring out, maybe a couple just to start with, and then you can always stack them on top of each other the more that you grow. All right, let's dig into
Alexis,
the last. Yeah.
Alexis, something to consider here too, like these, like anybody here can do one like weekly coaching call, like with the group, or they can do one expert interview a month where like they rally everybody to get excited about that. Like anybody that's watching right now can do this stuff, which I think is what's kind of cool about these ideas you're sharing here.
Yeah, it's kind of goes back to that original point of giving yourself permission to start small. So even if you latch onto a few ideas and then stack them on top of each other, you really are able to build quite a signature gathering to your specific product. Okay, we have 2 more signature gathering ideas. So this is another one I get really excited about, is maybe creating some sort of community champion program. This could also be called a super user. So select 3 to 5 members from your community to be community champions by committing to posting a new question in the group weekly, which can really help with community engagement. And maybe there's some sort of incentive for them doing this, but you could even have them go live inside your community and talk about a specific thing that they're learning in tangential with your course, or whatever your core product is. But this is a really great way too to not feel like you're the only one in there managing it all. How can you bring people along with you on that journey? And then idea number 12, the last idea, is a show and tell. This has been really powerful for Circle's customer community inside our own, very meta, our community inside the Circle community. And this is where we give Circle users the ability to come on and join us live and show and tell how they've set up their specific Circle account so that other Circle users can see, oh, wow, I like this. I want to take this. I want to copy that. And it's really a great way to, one, highlight that creator, but also show other members how they could be utilizing the tool and how could you maybe do something really similar with your own community as well. So I'd love to hear which one in the chat, or maybe a couple in the chat, that are really resonating with you. Office hours, yes. What are you seeing?
A lot of them are resonating.
Yes, good.
Yeah. So let's see what we got here. Oh, SPI. I'm saving questions so we can address them at the end. Perfect. Let's see. Is there a way to archive the live videos? We'll come back to some of the questions about Circle in a little bit. Yes, Jess, there are live streams. Okay. I think we're all good. Robin says, oh my God, I have died and gone to community heaven. Thank you, Alexis. Alexis killing it. Ashley,
Amazing.
challenges, too many to list. Awesome. Cool. And so the kind of key thing here, I guess, Alexis, is like, you don't have to choose all of these, right? Like you can just choose one. You can choose 2. Like that's a really great place to start. And this can evolve over time, right? And so I would just recommend taking a screenshot of kind of all of the ways you can potentially like craft these signature gatherings here. You can come back to it later. You can choose the 1 or 2 that Alexis shared that like really resonated with you. And so at this point, Alexis, what do you think we talk about? Talk about business, talk about the numbers,
Let's talk about
talk
making
about the
money.
revenue.
Yes, let's do
Yeah.
it.
So, so we talked about it. We talked about it earlier, and a lot of people they're shy about talking about the business aspects of community. It has to be this thing where it's like, yeah, we're bringing everybody together. There's so much good around community, and everybody wants to talk about just like the the part of it where we all connect and people get these big wins and they deliver value. And at the end of the day, though, these communities, they need to be sustainable for you to run. And so you have to think through, like, how can I make this a sustainable part of my business? And we're not going to go incredibly deep into this. I just wanted to really just kind of share some examples, the same examples you looked at earlier, but look at like why they might make sense financially and why, like how it contributes to the business and to revenue, and some of the different models there too. So let's look back at some of those earlier examples, right? I think some of these are just, they're more obvious and easier to understand. And so if you look at, Fresh Exchange, this is a membership community. It's a paid membership community. It's private. You have to pay to get access to it, right? And so, I can charge, money for access to the membership. And, I can have different levels in there. Maybe I have one tier that's X number of dollars, another tier where I get more. Maybe it's higher touch. I get access to like extra like coaching, or I get access to an extra interviews or extra content in there, whatever it is. But easier to understand, right? So that's like the membership model. The other model here is like, is there a way to take community with the current offering that you have and make it so that the community itself gets people to better outcomes, or keeps them around longer, whatever it is? Because if I'm interacting with you and like maybe you're teaching me something, or I'm listening to your podcast or whatever it is, a lot of times like I want more. Like the people whose stuff I read, the people whose stuff I listen to, like if they offered me more, I would pay them more. And if there's other readers of the same stuff, like I have a lot in common with them. Like I would love to interact. And so you can think through how to add community on top of what you're already building in your business. Same thing, with Brit. So Brit's a really great example where if this was, so her course is, it's amazing. It's very hands-on, it's interactive, it's very community-led. But if it was just the content itself, Brit wouldn't be able to get students the same kind of results. And Brit wouldn't be able to charge as much, command that kind of pricing. And so by adding the community into that experience, it really helps command more premium pricing, get better word of mouth because the students get better outcomes. So it just makes the whole machine work better for her, right? And so the other thing, again, with like products in general, is that like just because you have a community with your product, you may not be able to charge more. Like we have a customer community at Circle. We have 5,000 people in there, like really amazing community builders, folks who are like sharing all their ideas. Like you cannot get access to a community of community builders like this anywhere else. But we don't command higher pricing because of it. But what we do is we retain people. So like people will choose us over other tools just because of our community. And so you might think about like, what's the version of that for you? What if you created that community in your space for your people, right? And so there's the different models here, and it's worth keeping in mind as you evaluate, what's right for you. And we talked about Josh, so we don't have to go over it again. But we're going to build a community from scratch here. Alexis, I think we'll turn off the screen. We'll pull up some real examples, like up and kind of like look at a couple, and then we'll get in there and we'll start creating some spaces. But what we need to do is we need to first kind of like nail down a potential idea. And we don't have to go with exactly what folks share in the community. So like, give us your ideas. Like, who should we build a community for? What's an example of a community? What should our signature gathering be? Should it be, we're going to do like a hot seat, we're going to do expert interviews, we're going to have some areas for people to connect with each other. Maybe we'll have some like private hidden spaces. Like, what should we do? Let us know in the chat. And then Alexis, what we can do is we'll build one of those ideas, or maybe some combination of a couple of those ideas as they start to come in here.
That sounds great. And I think, an important part of this exercise that we're going to walk through together in this workshop is hopefully breaking down some mental barriers of that overwhelm of like, oh gosh, starting a community, building something, learning a new tool, it can feel really overwhelming. And so hopefully by the end of this, you feel ready, you feel equipped, you feel empowered to know that, hey, I have my next 1 to 2 steps of how I'm going to implement this with my own community.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, we're gonna do this right in front of you now. So it kind of it makes everything more real when you like see like, here's what it's like clicking the buttons and moving it, moving everything around. So we got a bunch coming in here. So let's look. Jess Morales says circle coaching. Audrey says organizing your home. Signature being accountability partners. I love the accountability partners angle. Fitness and diet coaching. Women 35 to 65 who are coming out later in life. That's my real community. Awesome. Mm-hmm. For designers, tiered community, free paid. Membership and mini courses. Very cool. High ticket coaching community, expat survival, Spanish community to help expats manage in a new country. Love it. Cool. So a lot of like membership, mini course, co-working sessions, accountability. What if we do this? What if we take the accountability idea? And so what we're going to do, we're going to have a membership community.
Yeah.
Now, I have a project in 2 weeks. I'm going to create a garden out front. And so let's create a gardening community.
Ooh.
And we'll create a gardening community where, let's pretend I'm the expert. I know nothing about gardening. Let's pretend I'm the expert. We'll create a gardening community.
I'm putting on my gardening gloves.
Exactly. And then what we'll do is we're going to have kind of like an open area that anybody can be a part of if you pay. So you got to pay, you'll come in, and there's going to be some content in there. And we're going to do a signature gathering. We're going to have 2 signature gatherings. We're going to have a weekly expert interview, and we'll have daily accountability where we're going to make sure that we're all watering our gardens together.
I love this. Great. Let's do it.
All right. So that's what we'll do. Let's do it. And if anybody has some ideas as we go, by all means, please share. Larry endorses this. That's good. Okay.
Yes,
so
Jess, I do not have a green thumb. So I'm going to learn a lot from this membership group.
Okay. So as we come in here, I'll share a different screen. Oh, and I should say, you should all go create, if you don't have a trial account, go create a trial account. Alexis, do you want to give them instructions on how to do it in the chat? But basically, just go to the homepage, circle.so. If you already have an account, don't worry about it. But if you don't have a trial account, you should go in there. Actually, I'm just going to do this right in front of you. So here's what you should do. You should go to Circle, the homepage, and it's going to be start your 14-day free trial. I'm going to go in here and do this right now, just because this is how I'm going to create my community. So we'll go in here, and you can see I do a lot of gardening communities. Gardeners Gone Wild is going to be our community here. And amazing. We're going to make this a private community. You have to pay to have access, right? And this is how a lot of the best communities start. They're paid but smaller. So we're going to make it private. We're going to keep the branding. We'll change the branding to maybe like a dark green. It's gardening after all, right? And so we have now the shell of our community here. We don't need a free demo. We've got this. And really so quick, you can kind of see what this looks like, right? Yep.
I was gonna say that Ritual
Alexis?
had a really good idea on start groups based on garden types or maybe even expertise of gardening.
Mm, I like that. I like that. So let's do this. Why don't we build our signature gathering, which is going to be, we're going to have a daily accountability group. We're going to have a weekly expert interview. Those are the two big things you get as part of the community. And then what we'll do after that is we will maybe create some interest groups in the community as well.
Ooh, yeah. I like that.
Okay, so we're going to come back to this for 1 minute. First, I just want to really quickly show you how different these can be, because you're going to see one version, which is like us creating this gardening community. But like, there's so many different kinds of communities on Circle. After all, we just give you the building blocks, and then you kind of like, you have this vision for what your community is, and you just use the building blocks to put them all together. And so as we look at different communities, you'll see the different kind of like building blocks and what they can be. So let's just really quickly take a look at that. So the first, we talked about self-made before, the boot camp, but what does it look like on the inside? Well, it's kind of like this, right? There's discussions, people chatting, but you can kind of see there's these spaces on the left-hand side, right? And spaces are really just a way to organize discussions and people. So a space is almost like a channel in Slack, as an example, all right? And then inside of a space, there's a feed, right? And so as you go to different communities here, like this is the Building a Second Brain kind of sales page. But when you get into the community, it looks like this, right? And there's discussions and all of that. And you can see the spaces, but everybody's kind of, chatting with each other here. But these communities, they can look very different, right? So one of my favorites is the Blogging for Devs community. So this is Monica Lent, who runs this community. It's a private paid community. But you can kind of see, she talks about everything you get in your membership, right? So you get online workshops that they have. There's feedback groups. You could think about those almost like accountability groups. They have expert AMAs. That's actually our signature gathering we're going to do. We're going to have like a weekly expert AMA. And for a lot of communities, they do them just once a month, a lot easier, right? And so you can kind of see what's included here. These are some of those signature gatherings, member deals and discounts. Not really a gathering, but it's just a perk. But you get into the community, you can kind of see what it looks like. It matches her brand, right? So you can really make these feel like your own. Like it's not a Facebook group. It's the Gardeners Gone Wild group. That's what it is. And so there's a pretty good community out there called the SPI Pro community, right?
Yeah.
There's Pat. You can kind of see they have the sales page, right? And then you get into the community, you can kind of see there's discussions and all that kind of stuff, right? And so all these communities, they're structured the same, but they look a little bit different. They feel like yours. You can make it yours. And even our Circle customer community, right? It's super active. 5,000 community builders in here. You can see, like, if we go down, there's a video library. We have some of the best community builders on Circle come in, and they're like, yeah, I'll raise my hand and I'll teach everybody, hey, here's what worked for me. And so you can kind of see here as we go through, there's like 50 of these workshops in here, right? And so if you want to learn how to find your community's perfect founding members, maybe you want to learn that from Tom. Now, this is recorded, right? But he could go live in the community. You can have events, right? So if I click go live, I could literally start a stream and go live and talk to 10 people or 1,000 people. I can pull people up on stage, have small group calls, right? And so there's a lot of these things that you can start to do, and you'll see in some of these different communities how folks are setting it up. Like, you may want to have events. So in the Circle community, if we go to the weekly events here, you can see all the events we have coming up. Well, if you're a coach, and I know there's so many of you who are coaches, well, maybe you want to have your coaching calls kind of like on the calendar. If we're going to do a signature gathering where we have our weekly expert interviews, well, that's going to be an event inside of our community. So we'll come back to these. But before we move on, the one thing I just want to mention is community onboarding. And the SPI Pro team does an amazing job of this, right? Like, these people land in, and the first question they have is always like, is this going to be as good as I was hoping it is? Right. And so your job when they first come into the community is just to show them like, yeah, it is, help them feel some connection. But rather than have them kind of like guess what they should be doing next, you can walk them through like, here's a list of exactly what to do. And I found no community that does it as well as SPI Pro, where they have a new member challenge. All the credit in the world to Jillian for like thinking through this, but you can kind of see what they do, right? And they have all these different, tasks and the virtual tours. And these are things that like introduce the new member to how to interact with like Circle, the product, how to interact with like the culture and other members, how to get to know people, how to get value right away, and like create that kind of immediate, like, oh yeah, it's very obvious to me why that was a good decision for me to join the community, right? So this is what these communities look like. I just think it's helpful to know where we're headed before we get in there and start to actually build. All of that said, Alexis, any questions in the chat here before we dive in and start building out the Gardeners Gone Wild community? Can't even say it with a straight face.
It is hard to say Gardeners Gone Wild, but I'm excited. Someone did actually have a good question that's very relevant to what you just walked through is how do you create the pre-sign-up page in Circle, or do you have to create that inside of your own CMS or like a separate landing page?
Yeah, most people create a separate landing page. Or they'll like accept applications, for instance, do like a type form or something like that. But you'll use your website or a landing page builder or something along those lines. That you can always accept all the payments and stuff through Circle using our paywalls feature, which is a good point, which is we should figure out how to charge for our community here.
Right. All right, let's dive into Gardeners Gone Wild. How's the chat doing? Are you guys excited to see how we build this out?
Yeah, let's see. Let's check in. Okay, so what's going on in the chat here? Yeah, Kevin says.
Also, I'm keeping a bank of questions for the end. I know we're going to have some time for Q&A at the end as well, so I'm just saving those. So if you want to move on, I'll do my best to hold some of them. We won't be able to get to every single question, but you've been doing a great job of answering questions as you go along anyway. So
perfect. All right. Well, then let's move on here. So, okay. So first thing we got to do, right? We have 2 signature gatherings and we have an aspirational goal. Our 2 signature gatherings are we're going to have a daily accountability group. And now we got to be accountable for watering our plants. And so maybe we'll like take a picture of our garden each day in the progress, right? And we want to create a space for our members to do that. Let's imagine we have 30 members to start. They're all going to pay us $50 a month. And we're also going to do our second signature gathering, which is like a weekly expert's going to come in and teach about creating a garden. And by the way, so ours will be very specific. It's going to be how to create an amazing vegetable garden for your own backyard at home over, let's call it the summer, right? So we're going to have some spaces. Now, first, what we might want to do is kind of have like this like broader, more general, like, here's where you'll land when you come in. So I'm actually going to change, this is what we call a spaced group. I'm going to kind of change this to I think we're going to call it like the members area. My computer's going very slow. What's going on here?
It's okay. I can still see you okay.
Okay.
What if we, is this going to be like where all the welcome things live?
Yes.
Okay. What if we named this Let's Grow Together?
Oh, I like that. Let's grow together. Yeah. So forget the members area. We'll go in here. Let's grow together.
Yes.
And we don't have to do any of this extra fancy stuff here, right? So there's a lot of like flexibility and different things you can do. Let's keep it simple for now. Now, this is kind of almost like a folder. It's almost like a high level kind of like area, right? And then within there, we might have a, let's call it like getting started. And actually, let's take some inspiration from the SPI Pro community. They have a nice little like start here with the heart. I like that. Let's do that. Let's keep it. We'll do it getting started but we'll copy that. We'll put a little heart.
Gotta do a plan.
Now,
We gotta stay on brand here, Andy.
oh, all right. We'll do the seedling. The seedling is one of the best. All right. So now we can have different types of spaces, right? So a space, I'm going to choose the post. I'm also going to make this, it's actually going to be, the whole community is private right now. So we can leave this open. Anybody's going to get access as long as they.
Uh-oh. I think that Andy might be a bit frozen.
That's okay. Oh, there he is.
There we go.
I'll see my way out.
It's up.
Sorry about that. I think I'm having internet issues. I don't know what's going on.
It's all good.
So we'll have another space here. And let's see what else we want to do. We are gonna do an introductions just because I think we gotta. And we'll do a little chat thing there, whatever. We're creating our spaces. Now, let's also create another section real quick, kind of for like the first signature gathering. What do you say? So this is going to be a space group, a whole group of spaces. And we're going to call this Gardeners Gone Wild Premium.
Ooh,
so
nice.
We'll call this, and this is, again, only for people in the paid membership. Now, in here, though, we're going to have our first signature gathering, and we're going to call this the expert-led interview series. And we'll do a medal, because why not? And we're going to make this an events space. And so now we have our first space. And we can create an event in here. I don't know who the best gardener is. I'll just put famous person from HGTV.
I don't know why Martha Stewart popped up, but
me too. Yeah. I didn't want to say her because she was a criminal, so I figured, maybe that wouldn't go over well.
She's fine now. She's fine now.
she's paid her dues.
She's thriving.
So by the way, we could do a whole lot of decisions here, right? So we can create like a description. We can have really nice images and all that kind of stuff. It can be virtual, in person. We have our own streaming service, which, will come in handy here. And so we can create our event.
Perfect.
I'm just going to choose the default here for everything. And okay, so now we can go back and we have an event. Now we didn't do anything special. We didn't put any of this stuff in here. When you actually go in here to create an event, you'll spend a little bit of time, but like your members can start to RSVP here. And when it's done really well, this is what it looks like. You have your events and people can RSVP, and I could go in and I can have a nice cover image there, right? It can look really beautiful. I can share this externally if I wanted to let other folks come in. And so we have our first event, the expert-led interview series, but then maybe we want a space too for our daily accountability, right? Mm-hmm. So we'll call this daily accountability. And we're going to
daily accountability for your roots accountability.
How are daily your roots accountability.
How are your roots?
Right. And this is going to be post. So we're going to leave this here, right? And we can kind of start. So we have this new space, but now what we could do is we can go in here and we can post things like Andy's 323 garden update. And I could post a bunch of images, or I could, have GIFs, and I could post docs. So a lot of people don't realize this, but they're always surprised when we kind of share this. If you type a little / all of a sudden you can integrate literally thousands of other tools right inside of any circle post. So I could type a little / here, and all of a sudden I have rich formatting and things like that. I can mention people, have emojis, upload all sorts of different files, but I could also embed YouTube or Vimeo, Wistia. I could embed Spotify players, podcast players. Actually, SPI has Fusebox, right? And on the SPI team, like they've done a really cool job of like embedding Fusebox right inside of their community here. So you can kind of see how cool is that, right? And so you can have these really rich content experiences.
Hey, that's nice.
And by the way, like if you want to create like a really nice video library or put like course lessons or put like the recordings of all your events inside the community, it becomes really easy because all you got to do is go in there and create a post, type a little backslash, and you can embed in that Wistia video, or you can just host it directly on Circle because we'll host the videos for you. You don't need Wistia or anything like that. So you can kind of see, right, how you start to like create this shell here. But something I want to talk about is like real-time chat and connection, right? So if you go into any of these communities and you want to see like who are the people, you can go in here and you can figure out who's in the community with you, right? You can have badges and tags on people's profiles. You can search for people. I could type in here Rome research and I can see, what folks are talking about, right? These communities become a hub. I could even go, into our community here and we have our private messages up here, right? So if you want to go in and have a group chat with like your coaching folks with 10 people on the call, you can do that. If you want to let your members, chat with each other, you can turn that ability on so that they can chat with each other. But these communities, they're all about connection. So like in our gardening community, we have a small group, 30 people. We might just want to let them chat with each other, right? And I'll share some news, which is like that we're a couple of weeks away from announcing our new chat spaces feature, which is going to go into beta where it's like Slack real time. I can just be in there. We can be chatting with each other and all that kind of stuff. And so you can have that more synchronous real time component as well. And so that's like the first week of April, we're rolling out the beta there. So people will start being able to join. But sometimes you might want to empower folks to connect like that versus, posts, comments, and replies.
Yeah. One more thing too that someone had mentioned that I'd love for us to circle back on, no pun intended, is the free versus paid, and how can you make some of those spaces open for everyone? Maybe walk through that, and then how can you make some of those group spaces actually behind a paywall, just so that we can kind of show that you can tier and host different elements of your community in one community.
Absolutely. So right now this community is paid and closed, but what we could do is we could have it still stay paid and closed. We could even add another tier, so it's more premium. Or we could make this community open and public, so anybody can join, but some of the spaces are private and gated, right? So like maybe we want to have another space here. Maybe I didn't finish the accountability, so I'll just show you kind of what this would look like, right? So this is going to be part of that other group. And so we have our new space. But let's say for a minute, we kind of have a more advanced group. And with them, we're going to give them access to extra content that we have. So maybe we have these like really cool trainings we've done. And you can be part of the main community, or you can be part of this premium tier. You pay a little extra and you get access to these extra trainings. So if I were to go in here, I can create a whole nother space group. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to call this, I'll call it the VIP group. It's the VIP group, and I'm going to create some spaces in here that are going to be private. And I'm going to call this secret training. I'm going to use that emoji. And we're going to have this be actually, so we have some options here. There's open, private, and secret. So private means that it's going to be gated. You can see that it's there. Like if I log in, but I don't have access, I can still see all the space on the left-hand side, but there's a big box that kind of hovers over and says you have to be a member in order to get access to this part of the community. The other option is to have it, nobody knows it's there unless they're invited in, right? So that's the secret. Now I'm going to make it private. And the reason is because I want folks who are in the rest of the community to come and see that if they want, they can just click it and unlock it by paying for it, right? And so we can set prices here by going and setting up a paywall here for this kind of stuff. I don't want to go through it now because it'll take time to actually set up like Stripe and all of that. Takes a few minutes, but we don't have a few minutes. So that's how you would do it though, is it literally, you create a space, you choose private, and you create the space, and you're good. Then what you can do is start to, add people in. Either they pay for it, or you can create an invitation link, and you just say, hey, here's a link. Go to that link, and you'll get added automatically to these spaces, right? So we're really just scratching the surface here. There's a lot more we could do. We could certainly go live into the community.
Oh, and you can be during the live, you can be out in your garden watering, part of your daily accountability. I love it.
Yep. I could be showing off like, hey, here's how I take care of my soil, and everybody else in the community could be watching, right?
You could have like a try-on haul of all your different overhauls that you wear in the garden, Andy.
That's exactly it. So, there's obviously a lot more we could do here. I don't want to get too deep into it because I know we're also kind of at time here. So what I want to do is I want to transition. I want to talk about the community experience bundle we put together, which I'm really excited about, that we did in partnership with the SPI team. Because if you've been thinking about creating a community and signing up for Circle, like this is a pretty good opportunity to do it. So we'll go through the full offer end to end and just kind of walk through everything you get. Before we do that though, I just want to check it on the chat. Is everybody still with me? How's everybody holding up? Let's see what's going on.
Yes. And if there are any questions too that we can circle back to, let me know.
Okay. So I'm going to share my screen, Alexis, and we'll go through the full offer bundle here.
Yes. Let's talk about the Community Experience Day bundle. SPI also has some pretty amazing additions to this bundle too. So I'm excited.
Yeah. We've never had a partner offer this much before.
Yeah.
So cool. So we'll talk through, like, we're just going to do a full Q&A here in a moment. I just want to check in though with everybody and get a sense of like, what's been your biggest takeaway so far from today's workshop? If you kind of like think through, everything we covered, is there something in here that like you're going to take action on, or of all the stuff we covered, there's like something where it's like, if I even walk away just remembering like that one thing, like what would that one thing be? Just let us know in the chat so that we can get a sense here. Coco Lime says, can you go live within a specific space? In a couple of weeks, you will be able to actually. But we're breaking too much news in this workshop.
I know. We got to reel it in.
Okay. So MK says the / Story and Plot says I already signed up. Not sure I got one. We'll get you the bundle. I'll kind of talk about that in a moment. Christy says the way I can get away from Facebook and Zoom. Don't need to start large. Awesome. Let's see. Communities and must all do it better. If not too small to have a community. Okay to start small. Go pro on community building. 12 practical ideas were the best. Yes, Alexis. That is actually my favorite part. Awesome. So the reality here is like what we want your biggest takeaway to be is that you can actually do this. You can do this. And so we've seen it. We have 5,000 customers at Circle, and most of them start out with very few members. And then they put in the work over time. They join the Circle customer community. So what we've done is we put together a special deal for Circle, just for attendees of Community Experience Day, and everybody's here today. And so what I want to do is I want to walk you through it. And I want to walk you through it end to end. It's kind of like really break it down, kind of like everything you get, because it's not what you would typically get when you sign up for a Circle. This is something that we've done in partnership with the SPI team. So to create a community, you need two things. So you need the tools in this software. We think that's Circle. But then you also need like a proven roadmap. You need the education, the guidance, the help to kind of accelerate the process. And you want it from folks who have done it before. And so that's why we put together this bundle. And so there's nobody better out there, as far as I'm concerned, than the team at SPI. And so whatever they say about this stuff, like I really pay attention to it, and our whole team does. Now, this is the best deal we've ever offered for Circle, where we've had like a partner involved adding more. And it's to celebrate Community Experience Day. We didn't want to just be like, hey, here's what to do, and then kind of like leave you hanging. We wanted to use this as an opportunity to convince more of you who are thinking about creating your communities to go ahead and create your community, to do it on Circle. And we wanted to ensure we can get as many people possible to like actually be successful. And that's the hardest part. So it took us a couple months to like plan this event together. We started back in January when Matt had the idea. The Community Experience Bundle is the best way to move somebody through to a place where they actually, have a community and they're kind of like armed and equipped to do this stuff. And so it comes with everything you need to create a community. If you're already a Circle customer, we're hooking you up. So what's going to happen is you're going to see this become available inside when you log into your Circle account. And so it's in there, like everything, all like the workshops and all the stuff I'm about to walk you through here. So here's how it works from end to end. So the first thing is that when you sign up for the Community Experience Bundle, you're going to get Circle's Professional Plan. Now, Circle's Professional Plan is the plan that basically every community I showed you today, like basically every one of them is on it. It's the most popular plan. It's really like the Rolls Royce of Circle community like plans that we have. It comes with, it's fully white labeled. You can have tons of members. You get advanced reporting, all the different spaces. You get paywalls, private messaging. All your members have like profiles and badges. You get all this advanced like analytics and stuff like that. It's what I recommend for most folks to start. We also have a basic plan. We also have an enterprise plan. The professional plan is typically, it's a $99 a month plan. Now, when you sign up for Circle, you're also going to get access to our customer community. I'm going to pull it up on the screen. I already showed it to you before, but we have tons of just like live workshops happening there. We bring in our community builders. We do things like have weekly office hours, just a ton of stuff happening in there. And so I'm going to walk you through what that is, but that is kind of like our secret weapon. And I think it's the secret weapon of like most of our community builders, because look, there's other tools beyond Circle. I'm biased. I think Circle is great, but the magic is in the community that we have, and the training and resources that are in there in terms of like speed to getting set up. So this is new. So this SPI Community Experience Design Bundle, I almost feel like I should let Pat talk about this. I'll give it my best, but I went through everything and it really over delivers. So what it is it's basically this SOPs, like the standard operating procedures for a lot of the SPI community. And when Jillian sent it over, who runs community experience at SPI, I was blown away. So it's like their launch checklist. It shows like their email templates. It shows their onboarding process for new members. It's very fluff free. It gets like straight to the point. It's what they actually use. And so it's just kind of like a little bit of a cheat code if you're doing this stuff. I think it'll make you feel like you have almost like an insurance policy as you go out to like create this community, right? The other thing is the SPI team is putting on an event. It'll be just for folks who are here, who sign up for Circle, become a paying customer of Circle, all about community design. And that'll be with Pat and Matt and Jillian, I believe those three. That's on April 7th. The Open Circle Bootcamp, by far one of the most popular workshops ever run within the Circle group. So the SPI team was really generous, and they basically did this like 2-hour workshop where they went through all of their onboarding and how they think about it for their new members. it was like, when you watch a workshop and the people teaching it, they have like really hard won experience. That's what this is. And so this is now the most popular workshop that we've ever done inside the Circle community. People watch it all the time. You can get access to it. So when you sign up, you'll immediately get the recording so you can watch it when it's right for you. Now, we also have office hours inside of our community. Like, we're there with you, right? So like, we're on the journey with you. You sign up for Circle, you come into the Circle customer community. There's 5,000 people in there talking about this stuff, but we show up twice a week and you can come and ask your questions. So it's kind of like, you might not come to it every single week, but it's like, it's there when you might need it, right? So you're like, I run into this question here. I could wait. I could ask somebody in the community. Maybe I'll get an answer right away. I could write into support, but like, maybe I want to talk to Mathilde, who's the head of community at Circle and works with thousands of our customers, right? So this is like a nice to have, and you'll use it every now and then. The biggie, 2 expert live workshops every month to help you build your community. So we bring in the experts from our community. It's expert led, but it's community led. It's like literally our people who we're watching build these communities. We pick them out when we try and convince them to come in and be like, hey, can you walk us through how you're doing that? And kind of like share that back to the rest of the group, right? And so there's actually a whole library in there. We do this 2 or 3 times a month, but there's a whole library in there where we've now done over 50 of these. So if you want to know how to find your founding member, or if you want to know how to create a great onboarding experience, or maybe you want to know how to run an amazing live event for your folks, or create like a really customized experience, you'll come in and you'll find a workshop for that like right away, right? And so you'll get the complete recordings, the complete library of these recordings as well. But something to note is that everything here is self-paced. All the events that we do, like those will always be recorded, right? So stuff is there when you need it. So here's everything you're going to get today. So you get Circle's professional plan. You get access to our customer community. You get SPI's community design bundle. You get the live workshop with the SPI team. You get our weekly office hours literally every single week whenever you need them. They're there. You get our expert-led workshops, right? You get access to our Circle experts, Rolodex. So you can go in there. You need extra help from people. You can go out and literally find Circle experts to help you, right? And so you get everything that you see here today, but we're a software company, right? So like, we don't charge for our community. The way this is going to work is that when you sign up for Circle's professional plan, and Circle's professional plan, it's $99 a month. It's month to month. We're just going to give you everything that you see here as a gift, right? So it's the community experience design bundle. You're going to get it as a gift as long as you sign up for any Circle plan, because the pro plan, like, even though it's the most popular plan, maybe you're sitting there and you're thinking like, I really want to take action and get started here. I don't know if I'm ready for the pro plan yet. Maybe the basic plan is right. And the basic plan is $39 a month. And the basic plan, it doesn't have all the features of the pro plan. It's a little bit more like entry level. You'll probably end up on the pro plan either way eventually. But maybe the basic plan is the right plan for you to start on. You'll still get the full bundle, like everything you see here, right? And so, yeah, I guess really, what we'll do is we'll go into questions, and I'm sure there are questions about how this all works and all of that. But here's what to do. So if you want to take advantage of the deal, you can go to circle.so/CXDay/bundle. By the way, Pat, who's there, Pat, you have a much better URL. So you can just like toss that into the chat, or Alexis, you can toss that into the chat. It's much cleaner.
There it is. Right there. smartpassiveincome.com/bundle. And both of you, thank you so much for the incredible value and so many great positive feedback about like the demonstration and just how simple it is to use. That's what I love about it, because in the end, the more simple it is to use, the more able we are to provide value and be in the community instead of worrying about like just creating it mechanically. So I just appreciate, again, I cannot thank you enough, because I really think about it, it's literally changed my life to use Circle and build SPI Pro. It's changed us on our end, and we're helping to change lives too, and just keep that ripple effect, those circles, right? The ripples moving outward.
Yes.
Anyway,
I
appreciate
love
you.
it.
I am getting some questions about like the Android app, and I know there's some other things in the roadmap. There is an iPhone app, and there's some stuff going on. Anything in the roadmap that you might be able to share as far as that's concerned? It seems like the Android app's actually pretty popular, so I'm glad it's in the pipeline. Just don't know when.
Yeah. So what can I share on this? So the question is always, what can I share without getting yelled at by the engineering team?
Right.
Correct.
So let me kind of give you some context. So there's a few big things coming up, right? So we just rolled out like our live video experiences where you can go live to 1,000 people or 10 people, pull people up on stage and all of that. Next thing we're announcing, we're literally announcing it tomorrow, is our new recurring events feature, where you could have just set up an event one time. It just recurs every week or every month or every
There
day.
we go.
And another thing, and this I really shouldn't be talking about, but we're here and the pressure's on. So, we're rolling out our new chat spaces. So we have chat spaces coming out, very Slack-like. It's going to be real time, all of that. It's going to be a new type of space where you just like spin up a space, and all of a sudden I can pop in and have a bunch of people kind of all chatting with each other, right? Another thing on the roadmap is our desktop app. Our desktop app is, I have to check on the exact timing there, but my understanding is that it's a Q2 thing, like this upcoming quarter, next few months. And then Android app is a fast follow to the desktop. The Android app is going to come out right after the desktop.
Perfect.
That's all I want to share on the roadmap for now, just because there's too much other stuff kind of like it's in flux and it can change, and I don't want to overpromise.
Gotcha. Thank you. And I won't push on that, so I appreciate that. Some questions about the bundle. So the bundle link is down below. If you're signing up new, you said it was any plan that they get right now, they can get access to the bonuses. If they are already a member of Circle, pro members, yes, they're going to get it, and it's going to go into their account at some point in the near future. It'll just automatically be applied there. What about basic members? Are they going to get access to that as well?
Yeah. If you're already a paying customer of Circle, then you're going to get access to all of this. You're going to see a little message pop up inside of your account with links to all the good stuff. So, I'm seeing Gary says, really need live streams linked to specific spaces. Gary, this is happening in the next couple of weeks. You're going to start to see an announcement about it. So
cool. Awesome. I do have some saved questions I'm going to pop up. This is one that I think I saw, Alexis, you answer, but I'd love to address it as well since we're here. And that is, how do you overcome time differences since these are synchronous events? So like a live event type of thing. How do you deal with like the time zone differences? I mean, we have access to a worldwide audience and members. So how do we manage that? There are a few ways to approach it, and then I'd love to hear perhaps some additional thoughts from the Circle team. But number one, you can have, if it's especially a big event, and maybe it's something that people want to get access to get some information or help from, you could actually have a couple in one day. And if you do it once a month, adding another one to help those on the other side of the world, it's not required, but it does obviously mean a lot to those people who often don't get sort of another opportunity to chat. So that's something that we attempt to do. We have like an Oceania events. We have like, and sometimes we just have specific events for different time zones as well, which is kind of neat. The other thing is to really set the tone that, well, you can still get a ton of value if you're not live, and actually treat the fact that if you are there live, it is almost like a bonus rather than that's the full experience. In fact, if it's like a training or a workshop, it's like, hey, I'm going to be training about this right now. And if you happen to be there live, cool. If not, maybe you can send in questions ahead of time that we can address. That way they still feel like they're getting a little bit of love. But if you're not able to make it live, it is still as valuable as you had pitched it in the beginning, just because of that framework or positioning. So I don't know, Andy or Alexis, do you have any other thoughts on asynchronous, synchronous things?
I think you covered it.
I love that positioning.
Yes.
I don't know if I could add much to that other than
Okay.
I'll say, we, like in our own customer community, we basically we have events at different times. We're very cognizant of the fact that like we have people all over the world, but when you post the replay and you just announce you're going to post the replay beforehand, it really reduces the stress for people. This
Yeah.
is like the number one question that comes up all the time. This event, like I can't tell. There's literally probably hundreds of people who replied, be like, "Is there going to be a replay?" And that reduces the stress for folks.
Yeah, for sure. Another question here. Dana says, oops, I just totally deleted the comment. Anyway, it was basically like, okay, cool, but like how small is too small to launch a community? How many people would you imagine getting in there? To start, is 10 like a good number? That's what she had asked, and I apologize, I deleted that question. But any thoughts on sort of minimum viable community size, if you will?
Yeah. So let's like even forget about the word community for a minute.
Okay.
And let's just think about, let's like use the word coaching group, or a group of people who are into the same thing with some common goal. It's not crazy then to imagine a world where you have 10 people in kind of like who all have access to that same home, who can go in there and hop on a call together or share ideas or whatever it is. So like it could be a coaching group. And we're using the word community all the time. I love the word community. We definitely use it, but like if it's just a coaching group, like it could literally be a group of 10 people that we're all kind of on this thing together. Of course you could do that with 10 people. It's just not going to feel buzzing and active all the time. So one thing you can do is, rather than have like posts, comments, and replies, you might just spin up a small group chat inside of that community. And then you might have more like synchronous real-time stuff, because it's a small group. Sometimes that can be better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's, I mean, a wonderful answer. Like, even a couple people could still be of benefit to be with each other, right? And if you position it that way, like you said, it's great. It's just what you include as your signature might change, right? If you tout a rather noisy room where you're going to connect with a whole bunch of people, like that's what you're positioning it as, and there's only 5 people in there, then it's not going to really sit so well.
Yeah.
So, perhaps if you have a smaller audience, you position your community to be not that, and maybe something more intimate or more deep, where it feels safer because we know these people are going to be there to support each other. And you have hot seats, right, which is a little bit more manageable at a smaller number. Great. Let's see. After launching a community on Circle, when should you start to host live events? I think as soon as you feel comfortable, personally. But Alexis, let's go to you. What do you think as far as like after you launch, when should the next live event be?
I think the more comfortable we can get going live, because video content is really, it's intimate. You feel a connection to someone, you feel their energy. If you can make the live element a part of the community, I would say go live as soon as you can and just bake that into the community experience, and them getting to see you on screen. And going live is a bit vulnerable, right? And so whenever you can invite them into that process with you, it kind of lowers the walls and creates that safe place that we've all been talking about.
Yeah, I agree with that for sure. And I honestly think that a live event should be planned as soon as you start bringing people in, to just get them. I think one of you had mentioned that as a sort of like a welcoming or onboarding, sort of like a when you go to college and you have like orientation. Like that's when you feel most comfortable. What's not comfortable is when you are 2 weeks late to the start of college and everybody else has already made friends, and it's like, oh, I feel lonely here now, and everybody's already together. So trying to bring those people in, at least at the launch, all together at once, and then doing something live for them to meet each other would be fantastic. So thank you, Hannah, for that question. I got 3 more questions. I know there's a lot more, but we do want to leave some room, and then we do have our next workshop happening at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern, with our very own Jillian Benbow, who's our CX director at SPI, who's really been at the helm and at the pilot seat for most everything that we've done with SPI and SPI Pro. And if you do want to check out SPI Pro, you can check out spipro.com. So glad we got that domain. But let's move on to the next question. This is from Todd. Is it a good idea to run a free community for a set number of days and then convert that to paid? Thoughts?
I have thoughts. I would not I would not take that approach. Some people have and they've
Mhm.
been successful and would definitely prove me wrong, but like I think it's I think it's tough to be like, "Hey, come into this community. It's free and then it's going to be paid." Like the positioning really matters. I think it's easier to be consistent
Mm.
with the expectations that you're setting with new members coming in. So, you could say this is a paid community and it's going to be free for you for the first 30 days because you're a founding member and I want you to really like feel like you're getting the value you expect. But even still, I don't love that approach either. I think you can charge for like straight off the bat if you set good expectations, charge less maybe
Mhm.
than you will, but say, hey, here's what you're going to get out of this. Here's what it's going to be, and
Yeah.
be consistent is what I would do.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
you should charge what you're worth for sure, and for an alpha launch or a beta launch, definitely. I mean, maybe for an alpha launch, you put your super users in there, just a few to kind of like get things moving, break a few things, and it being okay. Maybe they get free for a certain period of time, or even for life, if you will. But I would say that for a beta group, you definitely want people to come in and have them come in paid, because when you put money into something, you are going to be more likely to use it. And honestly, we could grow our community to the tens of thousands, but it would just be full of maybe not really the right people that we want in there if we were to just give it away for free. So that's something to consider as well. Thank you for that
Yeah.
question, Todd. Let's see. Two more questions. First one from Diane here. Thoughts on mixing different levels of access to different level of perks within the same community? If hosting live stream, can we bump up the number of attendees? Not so sure what we mean on that last question, but we can definitely create different spaces, and within those spaces and areas, give people opportunities to have access to different things at different levels, right? And I think you actually demonstrated that a little bit with your Gardeners Gone Wild demonstration, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's super easy to do that. You could have different levels of access, and it's really flexible in that way. As far as live streams go, at least from a technology perspective, on Circle is very flexible. You can have 10 people there, or you could have 1,000 people there if you want.
Awesome. All right. Thank you, Diane. And the final question here is from Christian. Do you recommend charging members monthly, yearly, or some other perhaps defined period? What do you feel like your 5,000 customers are doing maybe successfully? Obviously, you could do either or a mix, but what are you seeing working really well, Andy?
Seeing both, I've noticed some folks starting to ask for more annual commitments, especially for like the lower priced membership driven communities where it might be like $10 a month or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of it being $10 a month, just offering it for $100 a year and having no monthly option, and just really trying to get like the right people in the room, folks who are willing to say, yeah, like I'll put $100 for this. Or our friend Jay has a community, and I think um, it's an annual price point, but like it's saying like, hey, if you're going to be in the community, we really want you to be in it
Mm-hmm.
for the full year. I think that's something kind of a newer trend, but like makes total sense to me. What about you,
Awesome.
Pat?
Yeah, I mean, I prefer quarterly or annually, because I don't want people to. It could take a month or two for a person to truly. I mean, we want to provide value as quickly as possible, but to see like the transformation, at least in the space that we're in. I mean, it takes time for tips on email marketing to pan out. It takes time for the kinds of things we teach to pan out. So having quarterly and especially annual gives less of an opportunity to go, hey, I'm getting billed. Did I get anything this past 30 days? Well, maybe not, but you're leading to some inflection point that takes a couple months to get to, and we want it to get to that point before we sort of ask for more payment, at a point at which we want people to go, oh, yes, I want to pay this because I've already gotten some major results, and sometimes that can take time. So I think it depends. And then to add on to that, Anna here says, I use psychology to get paying members to join the beta group. They got a free t-shirt and special access to a community builder space as a result. So you don't necessarily even need to cheapen your offer, if you will, to invite beta members in or early access. You can offer bonuses and other things on top of this. I love the idea of, and this is something we're going to explore in the future too, the mechanics of offering physical products or gifts or certain things to people in a more automated fashion. If you can imagine, like, a person signs up and after they have been in for a certain period of time, some trigger happens and they get a postcard, right? Like, how awesome would that be? Or a little brownie or maybe a seedling or something. I don't know. Anyway, this has been so amazing. And again, one more time, the bundle, if you want to check it out, smartpassiveincome.com/bundle, over $2,500 worth of stuff in there, and you can pick any plan. And if you're already a Circle user, you're going to get that into your account at some point in the near future. Not exactly sure when, but it'll get there, and I'm sure the Circle team and we will also make sure that happens. And if not, we'll help you out for sure. We do have another workshop coming up in about 2.5 hours with Jillian Benbow. That's going to be 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific. Look out for that because it's going to be great. Your first 30 days of what to do after you get a community going, and we will be talking about onboarding and some of the things we do and more. So, Andy, Alexis, any final words of encouragement and advice or anything to say before we finish up?
Yeah, just one thing I just want to clarify for folks, if you don't mind, Pat, if I could just take 10 seconds and walk through what the checkout flow is here.
Do it.
As I look in our customer support inbox. So just to clarify for folks. So you'll do, and can you pull up my screen, Pat, sir?
I have your key.
So, actually, I'll share my browser here.
Okay. I'll pull it up as soon as you share. There we go.
Cool. So what you're going to do here is you're going to go through this flow. And I wanted to mention there's also a guarantee. So we always have a 30-day guarantee. So what I recommend is if you're on the fence, you can go through and attend our office hours, go into the community, start to actually do this stuff, watch some of the workshops, get in, play with your account, do all of that kind of stuff. If for any reason it's not a fit, you just write into our support team, just support at Circle. And we'll just get you a full refund. But I think you're going to like it. And when you go through, what you'll do is you'll click, there's a sign up button here. There's also some other CTAs and stuff kind of throughout here. So if you go here, you'll click sign up. It's going to take you to create a trial first. So you'll create your trial. Now it's going to log me in because I'm already logged in as myself. But you can see here, I'm going to create a community. Then the trial happens. Then I have to go into the settings area and actually upgrade and get on the professional plan or the basic plan. When you do that, that's what triggers, then you've bought the community design bundle. And you're going to immediately get an email with access to all the bonuses. It's literally breaks it down one by one with all the links and stuff in there. So this is the flow. They'll click through, be taken here. After you've done this, you've only created a trial. You have to go and actually upgrade the account. That's when you get the email with access to all the bonuses. That's when you're on the pro plan or the basic plan. Just wanted to walk you through that. Thanks, Pat. Appreciate it.